Hello there and welcome to my YouTube channel Climbinator 1978 or 1978, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Today I'm going to be reviewing the recently released Superman by James Gunn. This is the first film in his DCU, which is the DC Universe. Okay, right. Being a big Superman fan, I was really hyped for this film, and I am very pleased to say that this delivers on all levels. So, yes, I got to see this on opening day at a nearby multiplex, Bluewater, to be honest. And I can tell you now, I always had faith in James Gunn from the very first trailer alone, because I got the feeling that this was going to be depicting traditional comic book Superman from the word go. I just couldn't wait for the movie to be released, and this certainly delivered. I was entertained throughout the film, and I came out with a big smile on my face. And, alright, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But then tell me one film that is. There are issues I do have with the film, but it's the start of a new universe, and I hope they build upon it. And I certainly cannot wait for Supergirl now. But be warned, there will be spoilers in this review. Okay? And let's get ahead with the review. Okay, so Superman starts off where you see the logo for DC Universe. It's a traditional 1940s design of Superman, and you actually hear the opening notes to the John Williams theme. That gave me tingles on my backbone, just hearing that. And I literally was so excited for this. And then you literally get a shot of the North Pole where Superman gets... Right, first of all, before I get to that point, you see a shot of the North Pole and you get some pretext about metahumans existing for about 3,000 years on Earth, and then it goes on to say about 3 decades ago, a baby from Krypton landed in Smallville, Kansas, and he has now grown up to become the world's greatest protector, which is Superman. 3 hours ago, he was called to a disaster in Metropolis. 3 minutes ago, he lost his first battle. And then you suddenly see Superman catapult down to ground level in the North Pole, just like how he did in the trailer. In fact, it's that very shot. And that's where the movie begins, where he's all battered and bruised. And to be honest, I figured that was going to be the... when I saw the trailer, I actually figured that's where it was going to begin the film. I thought that's where the movie's going to begin, because it's going to be all about us all, the viewers, thinking, how did Superman get to this point? What has literally beaten him up so badly that we're now, seeing Superman so battered and bruised. And I thought we might see this in flashback throughout most of the film. And then keep getting shots of him in the North Pole, recovering. Because that doesn't actually happen. What happens is he calls Krypto to come along and take him to the North Pole, the Fortress of Solitude, where the robots deal with him. And after he's recovered from his adrenaline shot style of him being exposed to the sun, we see him going around the Fortress of Solitude itself. And to be honest, it actually looks really, really epic. And it's great to see Krypto mucking around on screen. And Superman trying to control him. And for those who are wondering why Superman has no control over Krypto, it is actually explained at the end of the film, which I'll save for the spoilers. And Krypto is actually the best of the co-stars in this movie. But when it comes to the performances, the main cast are equally as good as the originals. The main cast of the originals, yep. So David Corenswet is literally the best version, the best portrayal of Superman since Christopher Reeve. I've even heard some people say that he actually beats Christopher Reeve now. And there were some moments where I actually did think that. But, there's only some glimpses of that I saw, but he is definitely equally as good. And I liked Henry Cavill in the part, but I just felt that the writing around him made Superman really mopey and borderline emo and just depressing, whereas Superman is all about being a beacon of hope. And I never got that with Cavill's Superman. Anyway, Superman is called to Metropolis, and he flies to Metropolis not knowing that he's been tracked down by Lex Luthor's henchwoman, the Engineer. The Engineer is basically a metahuman who can hack into all kinds of technology. And she has these weird Wolverine style claws and the razor claws kind of abilities. She's really weird. But Maria, what's her name, plays her, and to be honest, she was the only character who really didn't need to be in the film. She had no purpose to be in the movie, because although there's no picture of him here, there was Ultraman in the film, who looked like one of the putties from Power Rangers, but Ultraman kicks more of Superman's ass than the Engineer does. And yet, the thing is, Ultraman is kind of like a revamped version of Nuclear Man from Superman 4. In fact, the whole plot regarding Lex Luthor in this film is pretty much Superman 4, but, executed better. And anyway, the Engineer calls Lex Luthor over, and they break into the Fortress of Solitude, doing some very naughty stuff. Now, I said the engineer is the most useless character in the film. She's not, performed badly. It's just anything the engineer does is something that Ultraman could do. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But anyway, Engineer and Lex Luthor break into the Fortress of Solitude while Superman is distracted. And Lex is in awe by all this Kryptonian technology. And I sat there in the cinema thinking, Superman, what does your security run on? Is it Windows Vista? Seriously. But what they find is a Kryptonian message sent with Superman via his parents. And Superman's always been able to make out what the first half of the message is, but the second half of the message got destroyed upon his entry to Earth. And Lex and the engineer decrypt it. Now, I sat in the cinema and when I saw this film, I actually thought Lex and the engineer hacked into it and they corrupted the message. But nope, it looks like James Gunn and all that are going with the concept that the engineer and Lex Luthor discovered what the second half of the message was, and that is Jor-El and Liara have sent Superman to Earth to not only grow up on Earth, but also take over the world in an authoritarian way. But because Superman couldn't make out the second half of the message, he grew up to love and appreciate the people of Earth. So, yeah, there's a little bit of Brightburn about Superman's heritage. But the difference is Superman grew up to become inherently good. Brightburn didn't. Well, he wasn't going to become inherently good. Which is why I hope one day we get a crossover between Superman and a fully grown-up Brightburn facing off against each other. Anyway, Lex Luthor takes this to a talk show in America, and of course the people who are watching the talk show get all riled up about this and say Superman's a threat to us. He's not here to protect us, he's a threat. And yeah, the people quickly turn against Superman. And it's not long before Superman feels more isolated. This is what I love about the stories of Superman, in that he tries to find his place on Earth, and no matter how many times people turn their back on him, he always looks for the best in people. And he always gives them words of hope, words of encouragement. I didn't feel like we were getting that with the DCEU Superman, but that's just my personal opinion. I mean, you know, if you feel like you got that with the DCEU Superman, and you're not getting that with the DCU Superman, then that's okay with me, you know. We're all here to have our own differences, and we're all equal. Anyway, Lex Luthor keeps sending his own engineered henchmen to go and attack the people of Metropolis, and Superman goes around saving the people of Metropolis, and it's revealed to us that Lex is doing this on purpose to try and turn people against Superman. And that was the only part where I was thinking, Lex, at the end of the day, people are going to turn against you. So why are you doing this? Eventually, Lex sends a kaiju monster to go and fight Superman. And when it's actually released from its cage, it comes out as looking like a little Pokemon character. And I did chuckle, actually, at that. I chuckled a bit. And when the scene transits from that scene over to the next scene, it's now fully grown, and it's causing, like, Godzilla levels of damage. Superman is there trying to contain the creature. And this is when we are actually introduced to the Justice Gang, not the Justice League yet. I personally think that the name Justice Gang is a bit lame, to be honest. Justice Squad would have been better, I think. But bearing in mind who comes up with the name Justice Gang, I think it suits it, to be honest. But anyway, we see this 10-minute action sequence where Superman and the Justice Gang are trying to contain the situation. And, there's some actual decent shots here. There's buildings going down. I thought, okay, I'm actually really into this film. I'm really into this. Alright, some of the CGI is maybe a little bit wonky, but I'm so into this that I don't care. And eventually they do end up killing the kaiju monster. But Superman advises against killing the kaiju monster. But the Justice Gang consists of Green Lantern by Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, and he gets quite a lot of good laughs in the film. Although, be warned, he does have a lot of F-bombs, which was quite unusual for 12A. But he does get a lot of good laughs, as he's like the cocky, arrogant type. We have the awesome Mr. Terrific, as he's the standout of all the human supporting characters. And I must admit, I didn't know anything about this character before I went in, but I thought he was just so central to the plot and such an intriguing character that he should have his own movie. He should have his own movie, because there's so much we should know about him. And Iggy Gaffangi, or Gaffangi, whatever his name is, he just delivers such a good performance in this film that he could have his own franchise. He really could. And he's such a valuable part of the film that basically a lot of scenes wouldn't be the same without his character. And there are some scenes with Krypto and his character that are, quite humorous. So I look forward to seeing his character more in the future of the DCU. And to describe what his character's like, he's kind of like the new Captain America. So yeah, I think I'll be looking forward to seeing more of him in the future. Then we have Hawk Girl, who I get the feeling that they're building up to something big with her, because I've got no issue with the actress, but like Engineer, a lot of the scenes that she's in, they didn't really need her. And I noticed some people said that the biggest drawback with her is the scenes where she screams. I've played a few of the Injustice games where Hawk Girl appears as a playable character, and screaming with such a high pitch that she shatters buildings is actually her superpower. So, yeah. People, before you make criticism about something that is a superpower to one of these metahumans, I suggest you do your research. But yeah, Hawk Girl is a decent character. Then we have Metamorpho, and he's only in the film for about 10 minutes overall. But he gets an emotional scene where he witnesses Lex Luthor execute an innocent man in front of Superman. And all I'm going to say is, I did get a bit choked up there. But Metamorpho is a character that I knew hardly anything about. And the scene where he transforms a part of himself into kryptonite only to have a change of heart, I thought, decent. Then we have Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan. And I must admit, I thought she was the best since Margot Kidder. And I hope to see more of her in the future of the DCU. I hope she becomes a central character to the DCU, because she's got the sassiness and the relatability that Margot Kidder's Lois Lane had, and she's got the determination that Terry Hatcher had, and the chemistry that she has with David Corenswet's Clark Kent, Superman. It's literally top tier level. And it more than makes up for the past 2 decades of iterations of Lois Lane that we've had on the big screen. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this one coming back. And for example, one of my favourite scenes with her is where she does the interview with Superman, and it's just Lois and Clark in Lois's apartment. Some of it was shown in the trailer, but not the full extent of it. And I liked the bickery argument they end up having. That made me chuckle a few times. See, that is how how it's depicted in the film, that is how Lois and Clark should be. And then we have Lex Luthor. This is literally the best portrayal of Lex Luthor that has been on the big screen. I would say he's even better than Gene Hackman, the late, great Gene Hackman. Because as much as I enjoy Gene Hackman's performance, the parts I really enjoy about Gene Hackman's performance now are less of the campy moments that you have with him, but more of the ruthless moments that he has, the ruthless aggression. Now we have Perry White. Wendell Pierce is kind of like a combination of all versions of Perry White that we've had. So I don't have a huge amount to say, but the moments that he does have on screen are enjoyable. And he's kind of like a combination of Jackie Cooper and Lane Smith from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. More towards the latter. And he's definitely better than Frank Langella from Superman Returns, who I felt was too reserved. We have Jimmy Olsen, and my God, what did they do to you here? They turned you from being a shy, nerdy boy to being an absolute lady killer. And that's not Jimmy Olsen to me. But no, Skylar Guzingo, whatever his name is. To be honest, I've got no problem with him as Jimmy. I wasn't overly keen on Jimmy being a ladies' man type, but, you know, some changes can be good, I guess. And this is one that suited a character more. And, you know, you got to move on with the times, I guess. But the subplot that involves him and Miss Teschmacher, I thought was a bit controversial. It's not the fact that Miss Teschmacher takes selfies of herself to expose Lex Luthor's plan, but it's what she does with her selfies. And I thought, this is a family film. But, you know, I'm not trying to allude to anything here. It's just, I thought, okay. You could have had just simply Miss Teschmacher having selfies, you know, like the one right here in the poster. But that's just me nitpicking, basically. And then we have Superman's dog, or is it Krypto, who, spoiler alert, at the end of the film is revealed to be the dog of Supergirl, as she appears at the very end of the film and not in a post-credits sequence. Nope, she's revealed at the very end of the film before the end credits begin. And she's in a drunken state, and I thought, okay, obviously she's more messed up than Superman, but I look forward to her new movie. And this explains why Krypto is in such a mess himself throughout the film. Why he often defies Superman. I look forward to this film, I do. I really look forward to it. And Krypto is just so adorable. He is. He really is. And the fact that this dog alone in the film has apparently caused dog rescues centres to get phone calls by about 500% in this week alone, that tells you something about this film. According to social media. Yeah. Anyway, so is this movie any good? I would say definitely. It is definitely the best Superman film since the first two Christopher Reeve films. Now, if you like the DCEU and you have no intention of watching this, that's fine, you know, we're all entitled to our own opinion. I personally think you'll be missing out, but that's your opinion. And one thing I can confirm, that unlike what certain people, namely one or two particular celebrities or once relevant celebrities have said, this film definitely isn't woke. It's all about Superman looking for the best in people throughout the whole entire world. And yes, Superman actually is an immigrant. Yeah? He's an immigrant. Therefore, right, he looks for the best in people because he wants to show them how to be better versions of themselves when they go off the rails or when they go into a slump. He tries to give people words of encouragement to alleviate themselves. He is the beacon of hope. So, is this movie any good? Well, I'll tell you something now. I went in with high expectations. This movie superseded them. I came out with a big smile on my face. This movie, it is an 8 out of 10. Yep. And it's on the highway to heaven from me. And I'm definitely going to see it again. This movie gets a thumbs up.